You're listening to the Grit to Growth podcast. Real talk with real business owners and professionals who built their freedom the hard way and now want more time, money, and impact.
Welcome back to the Grit to Growth show, where we dive into the stories of entrepreneurs and professionals who've built success from the ground up. Today's guest is Jon Schemmel out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He is the owner of SBL Ventures and is known by many as the Midwest Laundromat King. Jon's journey takes him from global corporate leadership to building a thriving portfolio of laundromats, real estate, and small business ventures. Jon, welcome in.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start in the most obvious spot. How'd you get the nickname Midwest Laundromat King?
I don't know that's the nickname. That's what they threw us at Steve threw on the last one. No, I grew up in laundries. My dad's a Maytag distributor, so it was familiar. But when my wife and I relocated here and at the end of 19, just started scouting. Didn't really even think about laundry, and a few were for sale down in South Sioux, and bought a couple. And it's that was September 2020 was our first one. And we kind of just went through multiple stages of, side hustle, hobby, small business, to we started, calling around and getting aggressive and saying, how do we form a business out of, with that being the focus. So 5 years later, we just closed on our 23rd acquisition. We're actually operating 22 of them right now. And, hopefully more to come. We've got a little bit of a lull in the pipeline the rest of this year. And we're going to use that time to kind of optimize the new properties and add some services and some of them are kind of projects, got to clean them up. So that's not a self-proclaimed nickname. There actually are other operators in the region that do a great job. But we just kind of have been adding one by one. We didn't take over any big chain or anything, and everyone's a little bit different. It's fun. It's fun to acquire. You don't know what you're going to find. There's always some hidden mysteries in every single one.
Yes, absolutely.
I was just dealing with one this morning on a new one, but so that's kind of how we got to where we're at. I've got 3 partners in the business, great guys. One of them is my brother-in-law. That's how we got here. We both married two of 5 sisters that grew up in Northwest Iowa. So we moved here, or I moved here. He was already here, and this thing just kind of started going. So
Northwest Iowa, the Dutch community.
Yeah, this is they were from a small town in Granville, kind of a German Catholic town, but just right over is Orange City, Sioux Center. Great town. We actually have stores in those 2 towns, so we've got a little Northwest Iowa route. We kind of joke it when we go back so now we've got a big family, right? So there's 5 sisters that are married so now there's 15 grandkids, and we all descend on the farm at Christmas. There's not enough room, so if my father-in-law is watching this, he needs to expand. Dylan and I use it as
kind of nudge.
Yeah, we use the local stores as an excuse to say, hey, you guys got the chaos. We got to go do some laundry stuff. But yeah, that's how we got here. That's there's a ton of stories and some failures, some successes on each one, on how how we got, and we every day is a little bit of a battle. It's a 7-day-a-week business. People think people see the TikToks, man, and they just see the quarters in the coin boxes, and that's there's some truth to that, but there's a lot of other harder truths in the business that basically we work 7 days a week with a lot of flexibility. So
are you active on TikTok? Are you shooting and posting stuff on there?
My wife likes TikTok. I'm 40, so I'm not the most tech savvy guy. I like Twitter. I get a lot of stock info. There's actually a good laundromat Twitter community. We've gotten some ideas and met some guys there. So we post that kind of there in LinkedIn. And we've always done that just to we never really knew if we were going to have to raise external money. So we're active there just in case that we haven't had to do it yet, but in case we were to go after an acquisition that would require that. So we versus starting from nobody's ever heard from you, or if you've got some content, at least you're, somewhat familiar in the community if you ever, want to go raise a fund or something.
For sure.
Like I said, not on the radar now, but could be. We want to keep our options open.
Absolutely. Personally myself, I'm not there either, but I've seen the power of it and maybe someday explore it, but I don't think it'd be me personally. I'm getting too old to be on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with the laundromats, then do you set those up each as their own LLC or entity, or how is it all going under the SBL corporation?
It's a good question. It's probably right now the least sophisticated part of our business. We kind of started out without knowing a whole lot about structure. I came from the corporate world, so did Dylan. So we've been kind of learning as we go. We're planning actually a restructure next year. We generally buy the real estate with these stores, and a lot of times the seller has one, right? So they have the real estate in the business. It's one transaction. We divide it up based on what you're buying and, for tax reasons, real estate allocations, et cetera. We kind of go state by state. So an LLC in Nebraska owns the Nebraska stores, Iowa, South Dakota. We're in 3 states. Not a lot of good tax reciprocity between the 3, but we are looking to kind of in 2026, especially with this lull, say, okay, how do we restructure it to where we've got kind of a real estate holding company, we've got an operating company. It just would make it a lot cleaner. I mean, right now I've got different LLCs. So based on the store, I'm looking at my drawer of checkbooks. I've got, I got all kinds of bank accounts, man. Mostly too, it's out of necessity. So if you think about where we're at, there's not one bank from a relationship standpoint that covers all the areas. So we've got to
make a lot of relationships with all of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have. This is a lot of it's a cash business. We do take cards into some stores. We're looking to move towards more of a cash and card kind of thing and get rid of the quarters. So it's more like a tap to pay. Yep. We're going to pilot our first system this fall. But with that cash, you've got to have, we have collectors out there. If I were to go collect all the money, we wouldn't be able to grow. So we've got systems in place to audit it, but we need a local bank. And so, Lamar's, Iowa, we got a couple stores, and we bank with a bank in Sioux City who's not there. So then we got to open that one up. So there's some complexity in that. And it's hard to totally get rid of that. And then multiply that times the number of LLCs. So there's some complexity behind it, and we're going to try and simplify it next year a little bit.
There's some good things though also in that complexity. Like you said, obviously getting those relationships with multiple banks, you can do different banks want to do different things, right? So having those relationships open is always a great tool in your belt.
Yeah, 100%. And we've got great relationships with our banking partners. We've used 3 different lending partners over the course of it. One has kind of been a local one here in Sioux Falls, has been our horse. And it's just, that's one thing that a lot of people that are looking to maybe make the jump and get in their own thing, their own business, whatever it may be. And they'll ask for, what are some pitfalls? And the almost top 3, maybe number 1 is have a good financing partner. If you intend to debt finance your acquisitions, and develop a very good relationship and trust with those guys. That way, and then over time you kind of prove it, and you hit your targets and numbers and whatever it may be, it builds more trust. So then maybe it's one that's a little bit of a stretch valuation. They're willing to take the ride with you if there's that trust there. So
what you talk about building trust, and obviously that happens over time. What did it look like when you first approached, and do you have any tips or tricks on someone starting out that way?
Oh, our story's less than conventional. So Dylan and I's first acquisition was in 2018. We bought a triplex in Storm Lake, Iowa, just a multifamily building. and he actually had a relationship with the local bank just by growing up with one of the guys that was an exec there. So that's how we started. And actually, that same bank did our first purchase down in Sioux City. And then obviously, as we're getting on the number 2 and number 3, we were planning to ride with them. And I think banks are not super familiar with laundromats, right? Because it's such a niche kind of thing. So I was actually planning, it was Labor Day 2020. My wife and I took the kids out to Deadwood. And so I'd never been to Black Hills, went out there, and we got the kids to sleep. And I said, I'm going to walk downstairs and play some blackjack or something, And so I sit down at the blackjack table, and this guy sits next to me. And he was actually at a bachelor party. So he goes, he starts talking, very social guy. And he's like, oh,
maybe some lubrication helping out there.
For sure.
Yeah.
I won't specify what I thought the amount was, but it was enough. And he great dude. And anyway, long story short, he said, I'm a banker in Sioux Falls, and we sent him the terms of these 2 deals literally that night, or and then I had lunch with him and a senior banker that week, and we got those 2 financed. So we started running with them, and really haven't looked back. We've got a great relationship with those guys. So that's
an awesome story.
That's our unconventional way to approach in strategy with banking, is go play blackjack in Deadwood and have a few beers, and maybe you'll find a banker.
Maybe the lesson to take out is build a relationship. More than just based off business, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
So that was the start of that. And then we started off slow. We bought 3 in 2020, 1 in 21, and 2 in 22. And it was kind of, as I was the primary operator in the beginning, so I was spending way too much time down south on a lot of highway miles. And then it was, after doing that and learning everything for 6 to 9 months, you start approaching your bottlenecks and saying, okay, what pieces of this can I hire out that will allow me then to either expand or go do other things? And so it was kind of those 2 years where we were figuring out, what are those other pieces to the puzzle we need to put in to enable growth. And, after 6, I think it was January 2023, we said, okay, maybe we've got 6, let's start building around that, and just getting an appetite in the region for maybe who wants to sell, and then put some infrastructure behind that. So
was giving up that kind of day-to-day operations, was that any tough for you, or were you happy to do that?
I was super happy to do it. And it was still heavily involved. I mean, it took a while. It's a very niche thing, like working on laundry machines, right? So there's a pretty big learning curve. Luckily, another one we stumbled on was actually now he's a part owner and our GM for Iowa and Nebraska. Tyler Nelson, he approached me one day when I was depositing cash down in Sioux City, and he just said he was there working on a duplex or something with a banker, and he just came up. He's like, "Pardon me, what do you do?" Because he just saw the cash, and I asked him. We ended up having a beer, and he started helping part time. And anyway, long story short, he came on full time as our GM January 2023, and that was a big step. That's cool. But it's taken him. If you talk to him, it took him a good year to get through a pretty good learning curve. He's gotten great on equipment, and now we've hired on another maintenance guy down there that assists him in that region. And then we kind of have tried to empower our local team. We've had to churn some people out, but we've got a great team. So a lot of the I'd say minor fixes and stuff are generally done on site by our cleaners or attendants,
Very nice.
or collectors. So, but yeah, just another story where you never know who you're going to run into. I did ask him over a beer. I said, "What did you think I did versus laundromats?" And he's like, "I didn't know if it was real estate or drugs, man." And so yeah, just it's turned into a great guy, great friend. And
I imagine it being like, have you seen The Wolf of Wall Street?
It was the Jonah Hill.
Walking up.
Deal.
Yeah. That's what in my head, what I'm envisioning is him walking up and asking what you do. And
yeah. Is that your car outside? Yeah. except I didn't have that car. I had a F-150, so it wasn't quite as nice. But
Hey, that's that I forget if he has a Ferrari or what. That's the Ferrari of the Midwest right there.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, he was an incredible ad. It's been along for the ride and been a big enabler of us being more aggressive on just expanding the company. And we're kind of also now that we're at 22, we're hitting another pivot point, right? So we got
Yep.
4 in South Dakota. We've got a key hire coming on in October to basically take over some controlling duties from me because as you're adding on additional stores, that's just that many more deposits, that many more things to reconcile, more licenses, more, as you can imagine, more admin. So take over that as well as run our South Dakota, and we're going to give them some growth targets down south. So
Good.
pretty exciting. We're trying to go for, again, I said hobby to small business to company, and we're trying to basically turn this thing into a very sustainable company.
Good.
And yeah, it's been fun. It's, like I said, plenty of failures and plenty of headaches. And my hair, I just got a haircut because I had a couple bad haircuts. I figured I'd start fresh.
Yep.
And I didn't realize it was going to be as thin as it is on top. So hopefully it'll grow out of here again here pretty soon.
Of course, now that I've recently turned 30, and I don't know if it was me turning 30 or whatever. I was like, I want to maybe try growing out my hair for one of the last times that I still can or whatever. And then of course now I'm on camera more than ever, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I kind of look like a poofy, but hopefully it turns out all right.
Yeah. Just don't buzz it, man. You'll be surprised what you find up here. But
It's all right. It's just wisdom.
yeah, there you go. So yeah, it's been a fun journey. Also, like I'm not super active on social media. I like to keep up with my prior colleagues on LinkedIn and stuff, but kind of with that, just like what you guys are doing with mailbox money and all that, there's
Mm-hmm.
it's very cool to see, obviously different than laundromats, but to see other local companies that maybe you followed 2 or 3 years ago that now have acquired other companies, and they've kind of gone down the flywheel. So it's been cool to see, and there's some learning out of that to see what other local guys and gals have done around here.
I think Sioux Falls is honestly one of the best places in the country for that kind of hub of seeing just how much people are growing and becoming super successful business people. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, it's a great city to be in right now. I think the last 5 years, it's like post COVID, and great place to be during COVID as well.
Absolutely.
Very much a renaissance for the city.
Yeah. Well, give me what else besides, we really hit on the laundromat side of things, but I know you're doing more than that. You got any insights there?
Yeah, that's the primary thing. I very much like I like evaluating businesses. I like M&A. So I do some consulting on the side. I was back with my previous employer, Prismian, last year when they bought Encore Wiring Cable and helped with the integration and the due diligence on that. You're probably familiar with Encore based on your past. So that was a lot of fun. I've done some local consulting for some small businesses here. So I just kind of keep that open. If there's ever somebody that's either looking to exit or just some P&L optimization, it's fun to look at somebody's business. So I kind of take that mindset and then I apply it as well to the public markets. I do a lot of I do long-term investing. I sell covered calls. I do a lot of day trading. So I kind of manage my own portfolio there, which is, I think, a lot of fun. I don't follow a ton of tickers at one time, but I get a lot of I'm active on Twitter with some other finance guys. It's interesting the info you can get from that. The only other thing right now is I've got just a land holding and then flipping business with my brother and another partner. Actually, one of our partners, Eric, in the laundry, where we kind of have a couple geographies that we think raw land's undervalued, developable land, and then we just kind of scout out land that maybe is being sold out of from some semi-distressed situation. So where generally you can, make a very attractive bid for us, and maybe it will help them to liquidate it. So an example would be an inheritance or something where you have 8 siblings and it just needs to be liquidated. We generally take a look at that. So and that's kind of a longer term. We did it for 2 reasons. One, my brother had been successful doing that where he was living up in Arkansas. Most of our holdings are in basically the border, Arkansas, Missouri, and then South Mississippi on the coast.
Okay.
But it's kind of one of those, when you buy something, you got to expect to hold it for 5 years. It's a good inflation hedge. But we're just now starting to see we got a recent deal on a property, so it was a good hold for us. So not a super active game. We buy it, we usually hold it for a couple of years, and then we look to just throw it out there and list it, depending on kind of what we think is going on in the economy locally. Yeah, so that's good. We're kind of always looking more for acquisitions, and then you sell one and you flip it in the next one. And
so would you encourage other business owners who are really just in their active work right now, would you encourage them to seek out other passive opportunities like you're doing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the way, like, I'll take the trading stuff. I mean, laundries are not like an 8 to 5 kind of job where you're busy all the time. So you have a lot of pockets of time where you can study 10Ks and figure out, where you want to deploy funds, or even active day trading, selling options. I have an app that I look at every single day, and I'll make stuff, trades in the day. So I've got kind of the pockets of time to do that. But you've also got to enjoy it. I mean, and you've got to be willing to, every day search those tickers on Twitter or X to figure out what the latest news is and stuff. So it's kind of, I look at it as I invest publicly like we buy a laundromat. I look at valuation. I look at, what's the mode of that business? What, are they going to be around for a while? Do they pay any dividends? Generally kind of float to that. What's its volatility? Yeah. So, and then another, I guess the last leg in the stool is, I do some just just personal lending.
Yeah.
And there's some local house flippers. There's some opportunities locally where if it's quick money fast, it's a way to deploy some cash with, as long as the person you're lending to, and you've done the due diligence of what they're going to go buy and do, and there's some trust there. It's also not a bad investment. So as we're building the laundry business from small company to portfolio company, as we're bringing on that overhead and that management structure, I've got a desire to eventually buy some type, or partner on some type of second company. In background manufacturing, that's my utopia, right? You find the business locally that maybe the guy or gal 70 years old and ready to retire, and they haven't tried to grow it in a while, but it's a good business. So we'll see. Those opportunities are very few and far between, particularly locally. I had thought maybe even going beyond the local geography to look, but I love traveling, but I've got 3 kids, so I don't really want to be a plane every single week. So
a little bit tougher with that.
Yeah. So I constantly scour, basically mid-market M&A, sites, as well as smaller stuff like BizQuest, BizBuySell, and you got to filter through a lot of stuff on that. But, you never know what you find.
Absolutely. Well, Jon, before I let you kind of promote yourself and let people know where to get in touch if they're interested in any of that or learning more about you, you're going to have to answer a couple rapid fire questions for me. All right?
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Let's start with, what's one weird or surprising skill you have?
One weird or surprising skill. Oh man, that's a tough. Can I do a pass and come back to that one?
Yeah, we'll come back. How about a daily habit that you swear by?
I'll go weekly habit. So weekly habit, and I mentioned this on the thing I did with Steve. Every Monday I basically come in the office, and the first thing I do, I turn on Squawk Box, get a cup of coffee, and I do the old school. I do some stuff on the phone, but my main thing is I have a list once a week. and I categorize it by income streams. So like SBL, trading, etc. And it's every to do. So, and I kind of make I copy it from the prior week, whatever's not done, add in what needs to be added. And then basically that's my game plan for the week. And it keeps me, honestly, limits my anxiety, because then I'm like, I feel like I got a playbook. There's going to be some things that week that come outside that playbook, but it helps me focus so we can keep moving forward.
That's a great tip. How about you give the worst piece of business advice you've ever received?
Worst piece of business advice I've ever received. Man, that's a tough one. I've got some good pieces of business advice I've received.
Give a good one then. If a good one's coming to mind, it doesn't have to be the best. Just
So I'll give a shout out to he's the CEO of an automotive consulting company. But this red belt here, I'm not a karate guy. I don't do anything like that. I need to lose 10 pounds and all that stuff, and I would not do well on that mat. But he actually came to our last company meeting and brought his philosophy, did a little presentation for us. Paul Folletti, incredible guy. But he preaches in his company the red belt mentality. So it's not really business advice, but it's more of a kind of a culture thing. And apologies, I've got a buzzer here.
You're fine. I had one go off too.
Yeah. He calls it the red belt mentality. He basically it's the level below the black, right? And so if you have that mentality of red, we're doing great, no problem. We've gone a long way from whatever the bottom is, but you're always, you wake up every day always trying to get to that next step. Because once you get to the top, complacency can kind of start breeding. So red belt mentality is, wake up every day striving to get to that next level. And we've actually incorporated that into our company. And it's great, man. You wake up and you are constantly thinking about how do we get better.
That's awesome. Well, unless you've thought of a weird or surprising skill you want to tell the people best place to contact yet or learn more about you?
Yeah. I mean, find me on LinkedIn, Jon Schemmel. Feel free to reach out. It's been interesting doing a few of these podcasts, how many people have connected, and you never know where the next, whether it's a happy hour networking or partnership can come out of, kind of as we described, even with our banker. Would love to network with anybody listening. So.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you for joining, Jon, and we'll see everyone on the next one.
Sounds good. I'll think about that skill for the next time we talk.
When they reach out, you can let them know. Thanks again.
Yeah, take care.
Know someone with serious grit and a great growth story? Send them our way at grittogrowthpodcast.com/guest.